I can't tell you how much I admire Pat. She has been a role model for me and someone that I look up to as well as a dear friend, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be here today to be able to speak to you. I think it's wonderful to see so many women who aspire to be influential in the world, not just in business, but when you take on this role, you are influential in lots of ways that you don't even understand yet, but you will. Things will unfold for you that you can take on things that you never imagined you could do. I had a job when I first got married. I worked at the telephone company. I was a telephone operator for 8.5 years in the first years of our marriage. We then moved to Colorado and worked for another company until the time came when that owner decided he wanted his boys to run his dealership, so we came back to Utah and bought our first dealership. I became a stay-at-home mom in 1970 when we moved to Colorado. Then when we came back and we bought our first dealership, I was still raising children. They were 12, 10, 8, 6, and 1. We were 35 years old. I continued to be the homemaker, raise the children while Larry worked 80 to 90 hours a week, and we saw him between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. So it was a difficult time, but one thing he did do was keep me informed about what he was doing. So I was not surprised at anything he did because I knew he was an entrepreneur. He was full of energy, liked to create things. He was a networker. He was a person who could relate across all levels of humanity. He could speak with an 8-year-old the same way he could talk to a high-level person. I learned a lot by just watching and listening to him, but I never expected to be in the business world. I raised children for 44 years because I raised a grandson, and that kept kids in my home until 2010 when he passed away in 2009, and that grandson got married the following year. So it was at that time I had a major decision to make. Larry had passed away. Our business was well established. We had created a foundation. We were doing a lot of philanthropy work. And I had children working in the company who were well equipped to take it on and do what needed to be done. But I was now the owner, the sole owner of a large company. And my decision was, I'm 65 years old. I have not worked since I was 25. Do I want to step into this world and consume my life with things that I'm not really familiar with or equipped to do? So my big decision was, should I sell the company? Should I reap the rewards of what we've done all this time and walk off into the sunset and live a very mild, uncomplicated life? Or should I continue the legacy that we have started and maintained and keep doing what we're doing to create good things? Now, we had already coined the phrase, go about doing good until there's too much good in the world. That sounds a little corny, but if you really think about it, if every person subscribed to that philosophy, there would be a lot of good in the world. You'd never eradicate the bad totally, but you'd surround yourself with good things and have an influence that would make a difference. So I chose at that time to jump in with both feet. I did not know a lot about how to run a business. I knew what we had built, but the things that I knew that were really, really important were the foundation that we were built on. And so the first thing, one of the very first things we did, my youngest son and I thought about the values of our company and the culture that we had built. And then we looked at Larry and the way he had created it. And we knew that the longer he was gone, the more chance there was that that foundation would get diluted. So we created a program called Who We Are, and it was designed to be the foundational document of our company, expressing the things that we've been built on. There are 4 values that we're built on: hard work, integrity, service, and stewardship. Now, I don't know that those are generally values that companies espouse. I'm sure they do, but I don't know that they name them. We chose hard work because that's how we got here. And we expect our people to work hard to maintain the businesses and the reputation that we have. So that was number 1. Integrity, because there were times early in our business where Larry would do major deals on a handshake because people knew they could trust him and believe that he would do what he said he would do. So that's another thing that's very important for us, is to honor your word and do what you say you will do. Service, now that one might seem a little strange, but service is a very important part of what we do here. Our people not only serve in the company, they do that outside of the company individually, as well as having the opportunity. Every year we have a week of service where we allow our employees to go into the community and pick a project that will help to serve and lift others. And when they do that, they feel fulfilled, and it lifts everyone. And then stewardship. Stewardship to me means I have something of value that I need to take care of, and I need to enrich it, enhance it, grow it, develop it, make it better than it was when I got it, and then pass it on. So stewardship is very important to us. It relieves me of the burden of being an owner and protecting it for myself. It allows me to open my arms and say, come in. We have something that you may benefit from. Sorry, I don't know why I'm teary. But those are things that were very important to us, to create a defined culture that everybody could connect to as they came into the business. Now, we always had that culture, but it wasn't defined in a way that we could use it as a training tool, as an onboarding tool, as a working tool, and as a connection with our employees and the community. So that's been very important. What I found about myself as I stepped into this new role that I was very unfamiliar with was that I had to gain credibility. People knew I was the owner. They knew that I'd been around for 30 years, but they didn't know much about me because Larry had been out front and I had been the person behind him, pushing him. So gaining credibility when you haven't actually been on the front line is very difficult to do, and it's hard to do for a woman. Even in my own company, it was hard to do. So I found that there were things that I needed to take care of for the long term. I started looking at the lay of the land, comparing my family dynamics to it, and I knew that if this company were going to succeed for long term, I needed to have family ready to take over. When Larry passed away, my oldest son was the CEO, and he served in that position for 7 years. When he stepped down, it was left to me to take care of the transition, and we had no family members ready to take on that role. So these things became intuitive to me. I knew I had to get a program in place where my family could be prepared for the future. And so I created an education program. None of them were going to college. And I had to, because Larry had said, you can learn everything you need to in the company. Well, that's not exactly right. You can learn a lot of stuff at college. So I've got a successful program going now, and my grandkids are going to college. Then I knew I needed to have a board of directors, which we had never had. So I hired a past employee who Larry had said, if you ever need help, call on him. And he was an attorney. He helped walk me through the process of putting a board of directors in place. We worked through NACD, and we have a board of 12 people. And this was one I had to really quite push hard, because those in the company that were running it I thought it was broken. I didn't think it was broken. I knew it was a great company. I knew that it was working well, but I also knew that there was a future out there that they were not thinking about. So creating a board of directors to me was a way to bridge from today to tomorrow to the next year to the future. And so I went ahead and did that, and it's working very well, and it's very well accepted now and a great asset to our company. So values and culture, transition and succession, and family education have been three of the things that I have felt were really important. But I also needed help in doing that, so I hired a coach. I hired a coach to show me how to behave as an executive, which was really interesting, because he said things like, the person with the authority to make the decision makes the decision. Well, I'm a collaborator. I wanted to poll everybody and see what everybody thought. He said, that's fine, but once you do that, you tell them, I'm just getting your opinion. I will make the decision. That was pretty hard for me, but I learned how to do it, and it's been a successful way to do things. So with that in mind, and in your career as you're going forward, remember you have the right to make decisions. Now, not all decisions are easy to make. Some are very difficult to make, because you're not only affecting your outcome, you're affecting outcomes of people who work for you, who work with you, and who will watch what you're doing and make decisions based on what they learn from you. In our company, we have a saying that goes like this: be a student, be a teacher, be a leader. Now, let me explain to you what that means. Being a student means learn everything you can everywhere you go from everybody you talk to. There is something to learn every day that you didn't know before. All of that goes into your quiver, and it makes you stronger, makes you better equipped, it makes you better able to do the things you need to do. When you've learned something, don't be afraid to share it. The person next to you may not know what you know, and it may be helpful to them. That doesn't mean just go out and spew all your knowledge. It means be aware of what you're doing, who you're with, and how what you know might help them. Once you become a teacher, you naturally become a leader, because you are helping others to develop their talents and their ability as they move along, either alongside you or behind you or in front of you. Have an influence on people that you work with. It pays off in the long run. When you lift, everyone benefits. I think that some of the best advice I can give you today, and I know you're talking about mental health and making hard decisions. I went to therapy for 23 years as a mother. I had kids that had lots of difficulties. I had an absentee husband. I had decisions that I had to learn how to deal with. So for 23 years, I relied on a therapist to help me get through my difficult life. I'm not ashamed of that. I think it's important that we understand we don't know everything, and we don't even know what we don't know. So if we can get help with things that we need help with, why not? They're equipped to do it, they are helpful to you, and you benefit in the long run. I think it's important for women to accept that fact and not be ashamed that you need help when you need help. Another thing that I think is really important is values. You are who you are because of the values that you espouse. You're here today because you value being someone who is smart and strong and capable and willing to learn. But the values that brought you here are those that are like, okay, I'm an honest person. I want to do something good. I can treat people with integrity. I can share what I have. You know what your values are. Espouse them, embrace them, take them as part of who you are, and continue to live by them every single day. That's what helps you make decisions, is what your core values are. And they will never fail you if you have created the right values. And they'll never change. You don't have to change your values from position to position. Your values will help you in every position you hold, because that's who you are. And that's important. The other thing I want to remind you of is, don't ever be ashamed of who you are. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you came from. Be proud of the experiences you've had, whether they've been hard or easy, or whether they've been things that you wouldn't want everybody to know. Whatever you've been through has made you the person you are today. That, plus your values, your integrity, your ability to embrace knowledge and experiences, will always be part of your foundation. And they will be the things that help you make every decision that you have to make. So I wish you well. I think you're on the right track. You have a great person to lead you into the future and help you understand what you need to do based on where you want to go. And so I would just admonish you to learn everything you can from Pat and all of the people that come to speak to you. And I am really proud of you, and I'm grateful to be able to host you today. And if you have a couple of questions, do we have time for that? I'd be happy to answer questions. Yes?
Mine's more of like a thank you. I was a teacher, school teacher for 8 years, and I was a recipient of one of the programs that you did, Driven to Teach. And with that history cohort from teachers in Utah, we were able to go do this huge history tour that I would have never been able to do. And so it's just fun to see the impacts of just the programs and education, and still being an advocate of education later after leaving the classroom. Like, those things are still really impactful to me.
Great.
So.
Thank you. I think that's another thing I would remember, or have you remember, is that as you become successful, share what you have. Share all you can, because there are certainly a lot of people out there that can benefit from your experiences and your assets. So thank you for that. Anything else? Yes.
I have a question. So as a parent, and as an employee, do you feel like there are things that you took from your parenting experience into the business and vice versa?
Oh, that is such a great question. I think everything I know in the business came from being a mother and a homemaker. The correlation and the transition from homemaker to the workplace is, it just parallels, because you learn conflict resolution, you learn inventory control, you learn money management. I mean, all of those things, they all serve you well in the business world. So don't ever minimize where you've been or what you've learned. Anything else?
Quick question.
Yes.
I have been lucky enough to work for Prestige, so I've been lucky enough to see you speak multiple times. And one thing I think is a thread is that you get emotional a lot, which I love, and it's something that I think, so I guess my question is have you come across people who view that as a weakness in you, as sometimes I think as women, because my dad's very emotional, and so I get emotional a lot of times, and I'm not afraid of it, but just as women in leadership, I wonder kind of your thoughts around showing that emotion. And
No, I have never felt that it was a detriment or been given that impression by others, but I think the reason is that I'm fairly transparent and authentic, and I am who I am, and I don't try to be something else. And so I think the emotion is just part of who I am, and people accept that. Thank you.
We have a comment from Zoom. Laura on Zoom says, thank you so much for including the importance of seeking therapy. I think it's critical for us to hear that strong, successful people are seeking therapy and seeking advice and counsel in their lives. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.